Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripradhakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai. Navadip Tham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Jamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Welcome to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Desha Tarane. According to my notes, we're on Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 53. And let's just get an overview of what's going on here. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has been talking about the spiritual masters, Bande Gurun, the singular initiating spiritual master and the possibly plural instructing spiritual masters. And he's been pursuing the outlining the understanding that it's Krishna who appears in both forms, actually, as the external spiritual master, initiating or instructing, and also from within the Lord appears as the super soul. So almost any way you look at it, it's Krishna who's the spiritual master. Acharya mam vijaniya anaiva manyeta karhicha. One should know the Acharya to be none other than myself. So this is the line of argument, if you will, that Kaviraj Goswami has been pursuing. And he's been illustrating this point of Krishna's acting as the Chaitya Guru, the Guru from within, or the instructing spiritual master, however he appears. He's been illustrating that by the example of Lord Brahma at the beginning of creation, how there was no one else to instruct Lord Brahma. And Brahma couldn't figure things out for himself. He tried to understand who he was, where he was, what he was supposed to do, but he failed. And then he received instruction from the Lord, performed tapasya, and then the Lord appeared or gave him an instruction. So these essential instructions by the Lord to Brahma in the form of the Chaturshloki Gita, Bhagavatam, 4 essential or probably nutshell verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Kaviraj Goswami is now presenting. And it takes, actually there'll be 6 verses. We've already covered 1 or 2, and there'll be 6 altogether. And that's the flow of the presentation, the argument. But what we're really going to find over the next several verses is that Srila Prabhupada focuses on the content of the verses themselves, what it is that Krishna, what instruction Krishna is giving. So in that sense, the purports don't really advance the argument, but they advance our understanding of the Bhagavatam and of these essential verses from the Bhagavatam. So that's where we're going to be in terms of our location and our course in this voyage over the next several Thursdays. Okay. Any question about that? Comment? Okay. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. So for those of us who've been studying Srimad Bhagavatam, we've recently, or not far in the past, covered these verses. So now for us, it's a refresher course. And it's typical of Srila Prabhupada to really focus on such important philosophical verses. The outstanding example is the 87th chapter of Krishna book, which, when you read the Sanskrit, is a modest-sized chapter. But Srila Prabhupada takes the opportunity of making it a philosophical tour de force, practically speaking, of really covering so much essential ground about Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. or Siddhanta, period, about what is real, what is true. Yes.
Is that the verse about personified Vedas?
Yeah, that's the prayers by the personified Vedas. Okay, so with that orientation, let us proceed. Aham eva sameva agre nanyad yad sadasat param paschadaham yadetascha yovashishyeta sosmyaham. Prior to the cosmic creation, only I exist, and no phenomena exist, either gross, subtle, or primordial. After creation, only I exist in everything. And after annihilation, only I remain eternally. Purport. Aham means I. Therefore, the speaker who is saying aham, I, must have his own personality. The Mayavadi philosophers interpret this word, aham, as referring to the impersonal Brahma. The Mayavadis are very proud of their grammatical knowledge, but any person who has actual knowledge of grammar can understand that aham means I, and that I refers to a personality. Therefore, the personality of Godhead, speaking to Brahma, uses aham while describing his own transcendental form. Aham has a specific meaning. It is not a vague term that can be whimsically interpreted. Aham, when spoken by Krishna, refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and nothing else. This is classic Srila Prabhupada castigating the Mayavadis for ignoring the obvious. It reminds me of a correspondence that Srila Prabhupada had with the celebrated Sanskritist J.F. Stahl, where there was some back and forth about what the actual focus of the Gita is and whether the Gita actually recommends chanting. And of course, Srila Prabhupada said it does, and he cited Satatam Kirtiyanto Ma Ayatantas Chadridhavrita. The devotees are always chanting. Devotees are always chanting about me. And Dr. Stoll responded and said that, well, Kirtiyanto doesn't have to mean chanting. It can be murmuring, it can be reciting, it can be, and they came with various possible alternative definitions of Kirtiyanta. And Prabhupada said, in essence, that whichever way you take it, the subject is Krishna. That whether they're chanting or they're reciting, it's about Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada said, the relevant word in this connection is mom. He told the great Sanskrit scholar, J.F. Stahl, that the relevant word in this connection is mom, which is the same as aham, me. So this is the obvious target that the Mayavadis and other non-devotees would prefer to avoid. Krishna. Vedas sarvara aham eva Veda. All the Vedas are pointing toward Krishna. So here Srila Prabhupada makes the really obvious point that when Krishna says I, he means I. the meaning of the word is clear. There's no vagueness here. There's I means the person speaking, and here that person is Krishna. So it's so that's the point with which he begins. Aham eva sameva agre nanyad yat sarasat param. Then yo vishusyeta. What is that? Sosmyaham. So this aham word comes up several times, and Prabhupada makes clear to us that this aham means I, and I means the person speaking, and the person speaking is Krishna. End of story. Before the creation and after its dissolution, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates exist. There's no existence of the material elements. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Vasudevo va idam agra asin brahmana cha shankaraha. Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse in Bhagavad Gita also. The meaning of this mantra is that before creation, there was no existence of Brahma or Shiva, for only Vishnu existed. Vishnu exists in his abode, the Vaikunthas. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky, and on each of them, Vishnu resides with his associates and his paraphernalia. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that although the creation is periodically dissolved, there's another abode which is never dissolved. The word creation refers to the material creation because in the spiritual world, everything exists eternally, and there's no creation or dissolution. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhutagrama Saevayam, Bhutva Praliyate, in the 8th chapter, everything's created, everything's destroyed, everything's created, everything's destroyed. That's explained at some length. Then parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana. But beyond all this creation and destruction, there's the eternal abode. Yasasarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashati. When everything here is annihilated, that part remains as it is. So Prabhupada's point is that it's Vishnu who existed before the creation, who exists during the creation, and who exists after the creation. And he exists with his associates. Okay. The Lord indicates herein that before the material creation, he existed in fullness with all transcendental opulences, including all strength, all wealth, all beauty, all knowledge, all fame, and all renunciation. If one thinks of a king, one automatically thinks of his secretaries, ministers, military commanders, palaces, and so on. Since a king has such opulences, one can simply try to imagine the opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Lord says, aham, therefore, it is to be understood that he exists with full potency, including all opulence. So aham means the personality of Godhead with his potencies, with his form, his qualities, his associates, his beauty, his knowledge, his fame. Otherwise, they want to have a stripped down aham, where there's no form, no qualities, no potency. Then what is the meaning of aham? So the Lord exists with full potency. No, he doesn't borrow from the material creation for his potency or for his form, because he exists. What is that? In Bhagavad Gita. Maya Yakshena Prakriti. The whole material creation exists under my supervision. Sa Aikshata, he glanced over everything and everything came into action, the whole material nature. So that means that he exists before the material nature. And Sa Aikshata, his eyes existed. So if his eyes, then his ears. If his ears, then his hands and legs and everything else. All opulences. The word Yad refers to Brahma, the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Tad Brahmanishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam. The Brahman effulgence expands unlimitedly. Just as the sun is a localized planet, with the sunshine expanding unlimitedly from that source, so the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with his effulgence of energy, Brahma, expanding unlimitedly. From that Brahman energy, the creation appears, just as a cloud appears in sunshine. From the cloud comes rain, from the rain comes vegetation, and from the vegetation come fruits and flowers, which are the basis of subsistence for many other forms of life. Similarly, the effulgent bodily luster of the Supreme Lord is the cause of the creation of infinite universes. The Brahma effulgence is impersonal, but the cause of that energy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From him, in his abode, the Vaikunthas, this Brahmajyoti emanates. He is never impersonal. Since impersonalists cannot understand the source of the Brahman energy, they mistakenly choose to think that this impersonal Brahma, mistakenly choose to think this impersonal Brahma, the ultimate or absolute goal. But as stated in the Upanishads, one has to penetrate the impersonal effulgence to see the face of the Supreme Lord. If one desires to reach the source of the sunshine, he has to travel through the sunshine to reach the sun and then meet the predominating deity there. The absolute truth is the Supreme Person, Sri Bhagavan, as Srimad Bhagavatam explains. Hiranmayena Patrena Satyasya Caritamrta. In the Ishopanishad, it's explained the Lord has his form, he has his face, which is covered from our view by the Brahmajyoti. One has to go past that to see the Lord's Satchidananda Vigraha. Now, I think I saw that there was a question in the chat box here, or a comment. Let's see. Yes, from Vijay Krishna. How to realize that there's a place where everything exists eternally, while living in a place where everything becomes dissolved. Is it that if I go for believing in such a place, isn't it that if I go on believing in such a place, people will think that I'm no better than crazy? First thing is, we don't give a damn what people think. They may think what they want. Sahanashasa in Sarvabhutanam in the Bhagavad Gita, they think we're crazy, we think they're crazy. So the score is even from that point of view. But apart from that, from one angle of vision, temporary implies permanent. The very idea of temporary implies that there's something not temporary that is permanent. Or from another point of view, every one of us can experience that we have a temporary form of existence, and we have a permanent aspect to our existence. At one point, we had the bodies of children, then we get the bodies of young people, and we get old bodies. And then we know the body kicks off. It's destroyed. So the body is temporarily existing, but through all the changes in this lifetime, I experience that I'm permanent. I don't cease to exist when my childhood body ceases to exist. I feel myself to be the same person even when I'm old, because Krishna says there's a within the body, dehi nosmin yata dehe, within the body there's a permanently existing feature. Abhikar yoga, it doesn't change. So if there's an eternally existing living being, then why not an eternally existing place? If you've accepted that there's two things, temporary and eternal, so why only limit things? But no, the only place can be the temporary place. The living entity has his eternal existence, and he has his eternal living place also. But that's not accessible to our present experience or our instruments and mechanical devices. But from Bhagavad Gita, from Bhagavatam, from the Upanishads, we understand parastasmad. Beyond this coming and going, there's something permanent. Even the scientists, at least a certain school of them, admit that the universe is being created, destroyed, created, destroyed, created, destroyed. That means that there's a permanence beyond this creation and destruction. They agree, as it were, with the statement of Bhagavad Gita that beyond this creation and destruction, there's a permanently existing nature. Now they, of course, may think that nature is material, but they accept that there's something permanent beyond creation, destruction, creation, destruction. But from the Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere, we understand no. There's an eternally existing reality, which is the place where consciousness has free realm, full scope. In the material world, consciousness is limited by the material body. But in the spiritual world, the consciousness displays its actual nature. Is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj, better than okay, as usual. Wonderful answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Yes.
You're welcome, Maharaj.
Apurva Prabhu. Hey, Apurva Prabhu.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. So I'm trying to understand how we can relate to the, it's hard for me to relate, but just to explain it to others, how, I mean, here, just to people who are maybe are not devotees, or they may be familiar with Superman, who with X-ray vision was able to do different things. But to explain in your preaching how this simply by glancing over the material nature that Krishna created everything and the Mahavishnu, and it's in our interactions with new people, like we may come up against this question, what is your idea of the creation, and how to put it into their perspective.
Well, they may not at once accept that there's Mahavishnu and all of that. But the first thing they should accept is that there's two natures, temporary and permanent. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains all of these things at length. And an intelligent person will, we hope, get it. That I can't be cut, I can't be dried, I can't be withered by the wind, I can't be drowned, I'm different from all of that. I belong to a different nature. Let's start there before we discuss, the creation of the universe and all of these things. First, let us understand that there's, even within our experience, there's the temporary and there's the permanent. Nasato vidite bhavo na bhavo vidite sataha. Upayor api drishtontas 20 tattvadarshibhis. The ancient seers, or any seer of the truth, in fact, if he's examined it, upayor api drishta anta. Anta means all the way to the end. If he's examined the matter threadbare, if he's gone all the way to the end of it, what does he conclude? Nasato vidite bhavo na bhavo vidite. That there's two natures. There's that which doesn't permanently exist. It has no substantial existence. It's like a breath that just comes and goes. And there's that which is substantial, which is always existing. So the never existing is this body. It doesn't have any substantial reality. It appears and then it disappears. We go, as we're changing clothes, we're changing bodies. All of these things Krishna describes, all from different angles of vision, just to get it through our thick heads that there's two different natures. And we're stuck with thinking only in terms of one nature. Just the temporary body, this is me, this is life, this is the world, this is reality. This is what we can test and measure. But no, even within your experience, there's something different. That's consciousness. And the best scientists will think about that, or the best intelligent human beings will think about that. And I'm different. There's some difference between, when I think about it, my body is one thing. They can probably, am I this hand? Am I this leg? Am I person? By this simple process of thought can understand something of the eternal reality. So first, let's get that far. Then we'll talk about Mahavishnu, and I don't even know who I am, what to speak of Mahavishnu, or the creator of the universe. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Purva Prabhu. Sat means effect. Nanyat yat sadasat pura. Sat means effect. Asat means cause. And param refers to the ultimate truth, which is transcendental to cause and effect. Sadasat param means superior to sat and asat, beyond cause and effect. The cause of the creation is called the Mahatattva. or the total material energy. And its effect is the creation itself. But neither cause nor effect existed in the beginning. Mahatattva was only temporarily manifested. The creation is only temporarily manifested. So neither existed in the beginning. They emanated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as did the energy of time. This is stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmad Yasya Yataha. The source of birth of the cosmic manifestation, or the Mahatattva, is the personality of Godhead. This is confirmed throughout Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Again, this is for the thoughtful person. What's the source of everything? This is the question in Vedanta. Janmadyasya, or yes, Tato Brahmajigyasa. What is the supreme? And immediately the answer, the source of creation, destruction. So that cause and effect, you're busy studying cause, effect, but what's beyond? Sat Sat Param, what's beyond the cause and effect of this material world? That's the personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhuva. I am the fountainhead of all emanations. The material cosmos, being temporary, is sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. But its energy emanates from the Supreme Absolute Lord. Before the creation, there was neither cause nor effect. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead existed with his full opulence and energy. The words, hold on 1 second. The words paschadaham at the end indicate that the Lord exists after the dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. When the material world is dissolved, the Lord still exists personally in the Vaikunthas. During the creation, the Lord also exists as he is in the Vaikunthas, and he also exists as the supersoul within the material universes. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Goloka eva nivasati. Although he is perfectly and eternally present in Goloka Vrindavan in Vaikuntha, he is nevertheless all-pervading. Akilatma Bhuta. The all-pervading feature of the Lord is called the Supersoul. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava. The cosmic manifestation is a display of energy of the Supreme Lord. The material elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, display the inferior energy of the Lord. And the living entities are his superior energy. Since the energy of the Lord is not different from him, in fact, everything that exists is Krishna in his impersonal feature. Sunshine, sunlight, and heat, are not different from the sun, and yet simultaneously they are distinct energies of the sun. Similarly, the cosmic manifestation and the living entities are energies of the Lord, and they're considered to be simultaneously one with and different from him. The Lord therefore says, I am everything, because everything is his energy and is therefore non-different from him. Let me just make an adjustment here. Okay. Any points here so far? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I may be, I don't say mixing philosophies, but I guess controversial issues on, I guess, the topic of the material world and karma. But following this train of thought that the material world is also eternal, as in the material world is in the spiritual world, and the spiritual world is eternal. But also everything is Krishna's, so the material energies and the material universe, yes. So therefore it's also eternal. And this concept of karma being beginningless, I'm curious how that fits in, where in the purport it mentions before cause and effect, there was me. So the cause and effect is karma, but I guess there's a concept that karma is beginningless. So it's always, I guess, existed with Krishna. I don't know. I guess this goes into the whole concept that we never fell and there's jivas in the material world always. So karma is beginningless. But I'm just curious. I don't know if there's really a question. I just thought of that comment and then how that fits in with the before there's cause and effect. Because along those lines, cause and effect always existed.
Okay. So the first thing is, of course, that spiritual world is eternal and the material world is, you can say, part of the spiritual world, but the material world is compared to a cloud. The sky is permanent, and sometimes there's a cloud in the sky. So the entire cosmic manifestation is only sometimes existing. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. It's not permanently existing. You know, the spiritual world is always existing. It never goes out of existence. But the material world is sometimes manifest, sometimes unmanifest. So that's the first thing. When cause and effect are being discussed here, it's really the creative process of this world. But let's take it as karma. The world is created on account of the karma of the living beings. And therefore, there's a need sometimes of creation. But that, yeah, so let me think where we're going with that. The Lord is beyond both the cosmic manifestation and the karmic history of the living entities that leads to their incarceration or their being stuck in the material world. However you take cause and effect, Krishna is beyond both of them. The living entities generate their own histories and keep it going so that even when the world is destroyed, their own history remains And so when the world is created again, they come out in their particular bodies with their particular karmic backgrounds. But the Lord is transcendental to that, to all of that. How is this karma being recorded? And how is it being accommodated? Or how is there a material creation to accommodate or work with this karma? That's all Krishna's arrangement. That's all Krishna's arrangement. Otherwise, you have to somehow posit that karma on its own somehow or other makes everything go. But why? Why should there be some sort of independent law of karma? No. Beyond karma, there's the overseer of karma, the personality of Godhead. Is that all right?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Tulsi Priya. And
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my obeisances.
just with a little extra time, we'll finish this purport. So,
Okay. I'll try to keep it brief. I was just thinking, this idea of beginningless karma. If we go back to Godhead, we talk about the fan running even after it's been unplugged. But I guess my question is, and I have a comment along with it, is that you may die and go back to Godhead, but there's still a bunch of reactions left over it, or do your reactions just get completely obliterated? Obliterated. So
at least as far as they pertain to you.
Right. But you have karma with other people. And so they have.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My mental image is that there's like a Ferris wheel, and it's the karmic Ferris wheel, and you can either hop on or hop off. And whether you're on or off, the wheel is still going around. So whatever karma you may have with other people, if they haven't hopped off, they're still going around and around with it. But I guess
yeah, if you leave your nephew $100,000 and then die and go back to Godhead, your karma, as far as it pertains to you, is done. As far as it pertains to him, he gets your $100,000.
That's the beginninglessness of it that I see. It's not individual beginninglessness. It's that karma itself is just going on in this Ferris wheel. And because Prabhupada says in many places that the material world manifests in response to the desire of the living entities to lord it over material energy.
That karma is not just a large impersonal Ferris wheel sort of thing. There's individual, like the law.
Mm-hmm.
The law exists in relation to the individual citizens. There's not just an abstract, ever-existing law.
But
so
law is okay.
Karma exists in relationship to the living beings.
But the law doesn't exist solely. It doesn't. In other words, there's not a law created every time somebody does something. There's universal law, and it applies to us as we act towards it.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I mean. It's that there's karma, that there's a action and reaction, and that's going on perpetually if you are plugged into the material energy. But if you unplug, the fan blade may still keep running, but then when you leave, it's still going. It's never going to stop, and it stops for you.
It stops for you.
Yeah.
Prisons will still run even if you're released.
Right.
But that no longer has anything to do with your business.
And the prison exists before you decide to commit the crime. So you're only in prison when you make that decision to do something criminal.
Correct. Okay.
Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yova Shishyeta Sosmyaham indicates that the Lord is the balance that exists after the dissolution of the creation. The spiritual manifestation never vanishes. It belongs to the internal energy of the Supreme Lord and exists eternally. When the external manifestation is withdrawn, the spiritual activities in Goloka and the rest of the Vaikunthas continue, unrestricted by material time, which has no existence in the spiritual world. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Yadgatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. The abode from which no one returns to this material world is the supreme abode of the Lord. So Yovishishyeta Sosmiham. Hameva Sameva Agre. I existed in the beginning before any of this. I exist now, and I'll exist when it's all over. So Krishna is the steady factor, the steady truth, the ultimate existing entity. And he exists again, Tamna Svena Sada, in his own abode. Yadgatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. Not that Krishna exists as some sort of impersonal force, but he has his own place, he has his own associates, he has his own business. That's all going on. It doesn't depend on our little creation, our little sphere. But everything gets created and destroyed. But the spiritual world is going on. The spiritual world is going on. And we're invited. Mamupecha punarjanma dukalayam shastratam. Napnavanti mahatmanaha. Yes.
I have a question.
Hmm.
The spiritual world
Hmm.
is the most prominent portion of the creation, of course. The material world is what we are existing, we hear a lot about. So we hear some activity about Goloka Vrindavan, and Krishna's Leela here, but Vaikuntha is a major portion of it. A lot of us may, we might aspire for Goloka Vrindavan, we don't understand the topmost. So, I'm just saying, what about all the Vaikuntha? We don't hear anything about what happens in Vaikuntha.
No, you read third canto, you can hear about Vaikuntha.
We get a little bit, but you would think that if Krishna wanted to do more propaganda, he could show you a little bit more succinct, a little clearly, like, hey, this is a house you could live in. This is, what you could be doing all day long rather than doing. I just don't want
He sends so many incarnations. Now you want him to send real estate agents.
Maybe just a brochure.
Just a brochure.
Is there such a description of more of the lifestyle and activities and internal workings of that Vaikuntha realm?
Again, Bhagavatam gives us some insight into Vaikuntha. Third canto especially comes to mind as giving quite the depiction of Vaikuntha.
We're starting that chapter tomorrow.
Hmm?
We're starting that chapter tomorrow.
We're starting that chapter tomorrow, describing Vaikuntha.
Yeah,
After-
it doesn't get dirty there, but they still clean.
There's hardly any dust.
Yeah, they just always clean for the pleasure of the ladies there.
Yeah, there's no dust, and yet
There's no dirt.
the Lakshmis are sweeping the touchstones. So there's quite the description. There's enough to make you say, all right, how much do I have to give as a down payment, and what are my monthlies?
But you understand, like in Goloka Vrindavan, you go down to the river Jamuna, you're swimming with Krishna, or you're milking the cows. In Vaikuntha, it's like, what do you do?
The description is there. There's royal service to the Lord. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita also you'll find there's the description of Vaikuntha. On the way, Gopkumar visits Vaikuntha, and he gets to know the mentality of the servants of the Lord, their bodily features, their engagements, their relationship with Lord Narayan. So and it's all upheld by Shastric references. So for those who have an interest in Vaikuntha, the information is there. But the most important part of Vaikuntha is the Goloka Vrindavan. Yeah, about cleaning the touchstones. Tulsi Priya says, when a place is already clean, it's a pleasure to clean it. And there's no anxiety that you're cleaning just for it to get dirty again. It's cleaning for its own pleasure and for the pleasure of the Lord. Yeah. Yes, we're just about to end because we're actually, if we think about it, we're at time up at 7 o'clock. So perhaps if there's still a couple questions here, we'll.
Just one question.
Yeah, so I'll stay. Yeah, so we'll end here so that we honor our time limits. And those of us who are sitting here, if we have a question or two or topic or two, we can chat a little more. Okay? Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.